Welcome to your iconic image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Jason Azevedo created his first manufacturing company with just $600 when he was only 15 years old. At this young age, he was able to establish business with some of the greatest companies in the world, like Nike, Disney, Marvel, Volkswagen, and Lucasfilms. By the time he was 20, he was already making millions in revenue. Among other things, he has gone on to co-found Mosaic, growing the company year over year. Welcome, Jason.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk today.
So I'm intrigued by this because at 15 years old, what at that point did you know about business?
That it was a thing that people do. It was a wonderful moment in time because you don't know what you don't know. So you go try it. And we had this harebrained idea to go print t-shirts, and that grew and grew and grew, and it led to where we're at today. But it was, I tell everybody, we started in February of 2007. Here comes the late 2007, early 2008 crash. We lost everything before we had anything. You learned business in a way that no one else did. And it wasn't reading a ton of books. It wasn't, you were living one of the hardest markets in history. And it taught you just how to kind of deal with the emotional side of stuff, the business side of it, the finance. And we just kind of learned and put our heads down and kept on working.
You know, and it's interesting that you bring that up because I thought with people with the pandemic that were starting businesses in the early pandemic era, that in some ways they had a little bit of an advantage because you were already seeing where the holes were, so you knew what to plug up. So it seems the same kind of thing for you. Is that?
Yeah, for us, it was actually really interesting because what ended up happening was we were able to buy equipment cheaper than any other company could because there's fire sales going on left and right. All of the big competitors, it wasn't a huge margin business. So if they lost one or two major clients, it really hurt them. So we were able to pick up clients that were dropping off of them. So what everyone was telling us was, it's a horrible time to start a business. You're going to lose everything. And we're like, we don't have anything to begin with. We have $600. So we kind of just shut out all the noise. And when you really peeled it back, it was such a great time to do it because everything was on sale and clients existed. And now it wasn't the easiest time. No, of course not. But it really did give you insight to, first off, what not to do, because you could see what didn't work in the business. And the other cool part was everyone was willing to help you because everyone was kind of in a bad spot. So when we're saying, hey, we're just starting, a lot of the elders in the industry are like, oh, you stupid kids. Okay, try looking at it this way and this way. So we use it to our advantage. And I think you're right. A similar thing with the pandemic. It gave people an opportunity where it's like, hey, I can't work anyways, so you might as well just do something else.
Yeah. So you're 15 and you're making t-shirts. How do you get on the radar of these major companies?
So there's a couple ways. First off, we did at 15, we started making like high school t-shirts and like family picnics, and it was not the crazy stuff we got into. By 16, 17, we realized there really wasn't a business model in that, at least not for us. And my brother and I are super, super creative, developmental. We are manufacturers at our core. And we started thinking about it like, hey, we want to do crazier and bigger and more nut stuff. And you got to remember the markets at this time. Nobody is spending extra money on a family reunion or an extra t-shirt for their school. The only people that are spending money are these high-end things. So we start developing the most complex, crazy, we're talking to people and they're like, don't do that. You'll never make money printing like that. I'm like, well, we're not gonna make money printing the other way either. So we started developing crazy stuff. Well, what happens is the market's pulling back. Nobody wants to do this developmental work at the time. We are the only ones crazy enough to do it because we don't have business anyways. So everyone else is in this kind of retreating mode, and we're just, sure, you have this crazy idea, I'll try that. You have a crazy idea, I'll try it. You have a crazy idea, I'll try it. And you become that person who's trying everything. And the other side of it is we shared everything. You wanted to know what we were doing. I was on every forum until this day. We try to keep our doors open with everything, where it's, hey, I'm not protecting my information. I mean, of course, there's certain business things you have to, but for the greater majority of it, we're like, no, check out this, what we're doing. People jump on the phone. How'd you guys do that? How did it work? And we'd share that information. Well, what ends up happening is, even when you share the information, everyone's like, you know what? You're the expert in the space. Why don't you just take these 3 accounts from me? And we just became the experts in our space. And that's what we've done with all of our manufacturing companies is, hey, we share information all day long. Nothing we're doing is all that cutting edge, is the reality. I mean, we're not building an iPhone here. It's like, it's manufacturing. Like, this isn't the craziest thing on earth. And if you even look at it, look at what Elon's done with Tesla, where he released all the patents. And it's like, hey guys, if we share information, we grow faster. And that's what we did. And that's how we got into these big name accounts. And then there was some luck in there, of course. I mean, we met the editor of one of the largest publications in our industry. It happened to be her birthday, and she was alone at a restaurant and kind of looked sad. And my brother and I we didn't even know who she was. Didn't know she was part of the industry. And we were just like, hey, you want to just join us for dinner? Like, you seem bored. And we had a bunch of other people with us. Well, it comes out, this happens to be the editor of one of the largest industry magazines. So but it was all, and it's always been for us, just go out, be nice, help people. And it pays you back in triplicate almost every time.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting and key point, because I'm a firm believer too, that you don't come from a place of sales, you come from a place of service.
Yeah.
And I agree with you 180% about sharing your information, because even with what I do, nothing I do is proprietary. Yeah. I create images for people. And, the more we can share with what we do and pull back the curtain, and the bigger we grow, the better we get.
Well, it's on my, every morning at 9 a.m., no matter what time zone I'm in, and I move time zones a lot. At 9 a.m., my phone says fix client's problem, because that's what we pushed everybody is. We're not doing anything insanely complex. It is the true reality of it. So what we're trying to do is just go find someone's problem and fix it. And if you can do that every single day, you will continue to be at very least seen as the person who fixes problems. And everybody likes the person who fixes their problems. So regardless of anything else, you've got one up there, because it's, hey, you're coming in. How do we take on this issue? You wouldn't bring me the issue if it wasn't causing you a problem. So let's figure it out. I see it especially in our manufacturing industry. People are very stuck in their ways and go, oh, no, that's not going to work. Guys, it's going to work. Like, somehow, now might not work today, might not work tomorrow, but it is going to work. If we're putting rockets up in space, landing them back on moving boats, hey, I think we can figure out how to make a toy. Yeah.
How much do you think we all need to be open to the quote unquote crazy ideas?
I think we have to be very open to them. And then we have to, so I tell everybody in my company, things happen for a reason. Sometimes the reason is you're stupid and made a bad decision. Like, so yes, listen to the crazy ideas, but also realize crazy ideas are crazy sometimes. Like, I've heard a lot of people that come up with a crazy solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And it's like, no, that's a crazy idea. Like, it's just, that's a Rube Goldberg device. Mm-hmm. Now, if that brings you joy and you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But understanding that crazy ideas need to be solving a crazy problem. Mm-hmm. And if SpaceX didn't have the problem that it was too expensive to get rockets to Earth or to outer space and back, it is a completely ridiculous idea to land on a moving platform. But that changes the game. So it's understanding that crazy ideas are crazy, but if they're solving an issue, then they're worthwhile.
Yeah. And, that's the other thing. At its core, that's all business is. It's you are solving a problem for money.
Yeah, exactly. There's a famous quote: the bigger the problem that you solve, the more money you will make. It's just that simple. And if you're willing to go on to bigger and crazier problems, you will get better and better results. But understanding that the harder that problem is, the more failure that you're going to have to learn to adapt with on the process of learning it. And I watch this a lot where people are like, I can't take on this crazy problem. I'm going to fail 20 times. I'm like, you're lucky it was only 20. Perfect. So it's truly understanding that, and building up that tolerance to failure is incredibly important. And there's really no way to build that tolerance up other than just failing a lot. There's a lot of studies that show that children that were very successful their whole lives, really good at sports, really good in school, really move on to amount to not much, because they haven't learned to fail all the time. Where you get the guys who fail all the time, they end up becoming these great leaders because they're like, I don't even know what it's like to not fail. So why not keep on trying?
Yeah. So what would you say that your brand became known for?
We build things. And I was doing a talk the other day. I explained to somebody, I'm like, I was that kid when I was growing up that was Pigpen from Charlie Brown, or that like it was just a mess around me at all times. I could like go missing for 30 seconds, come back with grease all over me. I was also the kid with Legos my entire life, and we're building up these crazy things. Well, what we learned, or what I learned, is I can make a career of it. We build everything. And the way we do is we do manufacturing. And we've done everything from children's toys to the control panels for nuclear reactors to beauty lighting products to, I mean, you name it. And add to that companies, just building companies. So that my personal brand, the brand around us, is we build things and we build solutions. Hey, what is that process to get a result in an item? And that is what we're known for. And it's exciting. And the one with MRCA now, we're building local communities. And that is really the fun one, where it's like, okay, I get to build a product that builds a company that builds a local community. It's starting to get really cool because you're starting to compound that growth.
So talk to us a little bit about that. What's that all looking like?
Okay, so for functionally, we own a private equity group, but really we're manufacturers. We use private equity as a tool. We're going out, we're buying legacy US manufacturing companies, usually second, third generation. I did this privately before with me and my brothers and another partner's holdings. And then we've truly realized that these legacy manufacturing companies are oftentimes a cornerstone of their local community. And they are good paying jobs. They're safe. This isn't the factories people are used to seeing. These are good jobs with low barriers to entry that really give everyone an opportunity to succeed. So we buy these companies, we're bolting them together over a process of about 5 to 7 years, we're expecting, leaving them in the local communities that they serve and bringing business to them through the network of companies. Our investors realize a return as we're pulling the profits and when we sell it, but then we added in a little caveat at the end. We are actually going to transfer 100% of the ownership to the employees through an ESOP, so that the ownership of those legacy companies remains in that community. We see it as our way to truly make a change. And make returns, because it is a business, and that is the reality. But those two do not have to be against each other. And we really want to see these local communities strengthen. American manufacturing it's about to go through the most meteoric rise it's seen in probably 100 years. It's a really special time in history. So what we're doing is we're making sure that that's preserved at the local level with a national presence, so that you get the best of both worlds.
Love that. So let me kind of pull all this together for a minute and ask you, how do you go out and do you create these opportunities for yourself, or are they a product of networking and finding out what needs to be done and information? Do you leverage other relationships that you've had?
All of the above. I wish there was an easy answer to that. Of course, because of our track record, opportunities are brought to us sometimes. I will say, between my brother and I, we probably look at anywhere from 25 to 100 opportunities a week that we're looking at companies. My entire team has a firm belief there's no way to find an opportunity unless you go to it. So I think, was it last week, we drove from Austin, Texas to Dallas, Texas to Little Rock to Northern Arkansas to Memphis to Cocoa Beach, Florida. Because most of the companies we look at and work with are in rural areas. So getting an airplane to each one of them is virtually impossible. So we just drive, and people think we're nuts, and we are, but you got to get yourself out there and go see what you're working on and meet the people and meet the community and understand what makes it tick. And you can't do that unless you put the work in. And we watch competitors of ours. It's kind of funny almost to me, because they're doing it from very much a financial standpoint, and the opportunities, well, it has to check 15 boxes. That's just not the way we do it. Our skill set's different. So we're on the road a lot more. And I'm sure all of our families wish we did it from the desk, but it's just not, it's not in our DNA to do it that way.
So you're at that point now. However, let's pull it back a little bit, and let's say somebody has their t-shirt idea, whatever that happens to be. What would you say to them that, as far as advice goes, to develop higher level partnerships and relationships?
First off, tell everyone what you're doing. Not from a sales pitch, not from anything else. Like, drop all that. As soon as you sales pitch somebody, I've met a couple guys that are very, very, very good at it, and you don't realize you're being pitched until about a day later. Unless you're that good, stop pitching. Just tell people what you do. You'd be amazed how many people just would love to connect you with somebody else because it makes them feel good. But if you pitch them, they shut you down immediately. So we've always just talked about what we do to everyone. Like, oh, what do you guys do? My favorite is, we work in non-fancy industries. So I always love when people, what do you do? Oh, well, I handle high level, or I handle financial transactions for a multi-billion-dollar company. Actually, cashier McDonald's, but technically true. Where then you get us, we're like, what do you do? I print t-shirts, or I work in a factory. And people are like, wait, what? It's like, hey, just simplify to what you actually do. Like, be open and honest about it, because there is very much a tall poppy syndrome also. People will always help you if they feel like you're at their level or below them. The second I watch people with their brands all the time trying to be this like superstar, and everyone's like, well, I can't help you. You're a superstar. It's like, well, no, just say where you're at and what you're doing. And you'd be amazed how many people come out and go, oh, I know someone who's something like that. I can introduce you to that. Or, hey, I have a project that kind of needs that skill set. So that's the first and foremost, is do not oversell yourself as this genius, because then every single person looks at you and goes, oh, I can't help you. Because you've already got it figured out. So the humbleness, and not humbleness to that like false humbleness, like that's the other side of the coin, where it's like, dude, okay, just acknowledge exactly where you're at. The next one, just be willing to help people. Like, I know it sounds overly cliche and simple, but I've been amazed, because I'll go to networking events, and I'm fortunate enough to have one of the most amazing friend groups on earth. I mean, you've got people that have literally influenced world decisions. You've got guys who are artists that are doing their thing. You got guys who've got more zeros behind their net worth than I care to mention. So it's a very interesting group, and we're all very, very close to each other. In that group, anybody asks for help, and they will drop what they're doing and do it right away. I go to some of these networking events, like the little local ones, and every person's like, what can you do for me? And it's the weirdest thing where I'm like, but these guys' schedules are almost impossible to get in, and they will drop everything to help. You guys, unless it benefits you, won't do it. And you're like, okay, is that a product of I'm already here, so I'm trying to help, or I got here by trying to help? And what I've come to realize very, very quickly, or very repetitively, the way they got there is the willingness to help. And as long as people can remember to kind of stay in that honest, humble zone, and then also help anytime you can. That I had one of my friends over the other day. We've been friends for years. Out to dinner with his family. I know his kids real well. I stayed at his house. He stayed at mine. He was actually staying at a ranch in Texas, and we were sitting there having a glass of wine, and I suddenly realized he didn't know what I did for a living. He knew I was a manufacturer. He had no clue private equity fund. I'm just sitting there. He goes, you're the worst sales pitch I've ever heard. He goes, because you guys are looking for investors, and I didn't know what you do. I'm like, because I see you as my friend. I don't see you as somebody I'm pitching. And he literally turns to me and he goes, I'm going to invest in you guys. He goes, I'm in. I'm like, I didn't mean it like that. I was like, we were just talking last night. And he's like, no, why? I'm like, because that's not what we lead with. And that gets you instant trust with people. If you're not begging them for stuff every day, they will come and just be like, hey, I just want to be on this team. It'd be fun.
Yeah. And, back to those networking events too, people can smell desperation from a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
But like you said, the minute you are not in it for you and you are in it to help others and serve others, it becomes a different ballgame. It really does.
Totally. It's hard to describe to people because it does sound cliche. And I'm the first to admit, of course, there's selfishness in any transaction. That is the reality. So you also can't just jam that down and hide all of it. You are running a business, and you do need to. The reality is, you want the bottom line to grow. Like we have to put all that on the table, but you don't have to have that be your primary focus. And there's a famous Richard Branson thing. I take care of my employees take care of my customers. Simple as that. Well, he follows it through thick and thin. Ours is we take care of our employees, they take care of their communities, that makes sure that our revenue hits where it needs to go. If you become of service to people, they will, maybe not them, but maybe someone they touch or something, the whole world functions better.
So let me ask you this. What to you is the line between humility and, let's say, if you have a win or something exciting happens, sharing that, where does that line fall?
It's different for everyone. I am the worst at celebrating my wins. The going joke for me is that as soon as I see that I'm going to score the touchdown, I move the goalpost. I move the line a bit. I think it really comes down to how you celebrate, how you treat your losses has to be in direct connection with how you treat your wins. If you're going to treat your losses like the worst thing on earth, you need to treat your wins like the best thing on earth. It's that I personally don't treat my losses very hard. Of course I take them very personal and take them as learning devices, but they're not, oh my God, everything's going to die. We're horrible. On the counter side of that, I don't get to celebrate the win at that level. There's three types of leaders. There's the guys who every time they lose, it's their team's fault. And every time they win, they're the greatest leaders on earth. There's what for years I tried to be. And it was every time we lose, it's my fault because I should have led the team better. And every time we win, it's the team's win.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy. So we switch mentally for myself, and the way we treat it is we all lost together, we all win together. It really doesn't matter. It's how do we get to that next step and move forward. The other part of that too is also let people on your team experience the wins and the losses the way they want it. Because I've got people on my team, they really need that win. And we give it to them because, hey, if that's what drives you, my brother is one of the most competitive people on earth. I love him dearly. I love doing business with him. But when he loses, he's pissed. And when he wins, he's happy. So it's, hey, let him enjoy that process in his way. So I really do think it's different for everyone. The one that's not healthy is every time you lose, it's everyone else's fault. But every time I win, I'm a genius. Like that is the person that should be removed from every single team.
Yeah. And, it's funny because I remember reading something once that if you can't take responsibility for your failures, then you cannot take responsibility for your wins because it's the same person.
Exactly. And you have to accept that. It's the reality is it goes back to everything happens for a reason. Sometimes it's because you made a stupid mistake. You have to just accept it. And the second you accept it, it's so much easier to get over. It's fear or anxiety is just the fear of the unknown. Well, if you just take something head on and go, I failed, the anxiety disappears because it's not unknown anymore. You know exactly what happened. You failed and you just move on. And the more I'm around people that are very successful, whether it be in sport, art, business, and we talk to them, they all have that same outlook. They're like, yeah, I mean, you win some, you lose some. The goal is to have the number of the total dollar amount on the wins be higher than the losses. That's it.
Let me ask you, do you separate who you are from who your brand is? Or because I know as a business owner or as an entrepreneur, there's a very blurred line, but do you have separate components?
Yes. So I am a builder. I'm kind of bouncy. I'm the scattered brain. I go back to a little bit. I'm kind of like Pigpen or Beaker. You choose which one of the crazy characters there is. And that's part of who I am. And when we come out, you're going to have a joke every 30 seconds. They're probably not going to be good, but it's just going to be that way. When we come to our organization, there's a dash more of professionalism. And because what we, from a core, what we're doing is financial transactions, you need that professionalism. And what I don't think you can do is separate the collective brands of the individuals from the corporate brand. So if you look at me plus my 4 GPs and you combined all of our personals, we create the corporate. I see too many people try to create this corporate that is not a melding of their team. And now you've got this disbelief because anybody's like, well, where's the professional guy? I need the, like, what's going on here? So we do have a clear difference between the two. Of course, there's heavy influence of any partner in the main brand because that's where it came from. Now, when you're a single founder entrepreneur, that becomes a lot harder because now there really isn't more influence. And I think that in that situation, you have to become more synonymous with the brand and that case. But for us, it really is a collection of us that you will see if you look at the corporate side. If you look at us personally, it's definitely like, if you look at our corporate stuff, there will never be a grammar, or there shouldn't be a grammar or spelling error. You look at anything that like a post from me or something, those are most the right letters in the right order, right?
So what do you think has been the biggest influencer to your success?
I've asked a lot of questions. My favorite thing to say is, I don't know. I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you dumb that down for me? I learned it from being 15, walking into a industry full of people that were in their 50s and 60s. What we learned very early on, especially people who are kind of on exit route of their career, too many people stop listening to them. And they want to share their information and their future, or what they see for the future more than any person. And because they're on exit route, they don't see you as competition. By the time you get your feet wet, they're out anyways. So we just learned by chance, luck, skill, I don't know, but to go just ask these guys who had all of this information to share, what do you think? What can you explain to me how you got here? Like, what I'm thinking about trying this. No, don't do that, kid. No, that's gonna end badly. So that has been our biggest skill, is just talking to people who've done it, and maybe not done it in your industry. Some of our best things have come from people who are like, they were in real estate. And what did you learn? Well, I learned don't ever get too far over your skis with mortgages, because even though they're safe, they're not. And you add up all that information and then synthesize it yourself. But that has been our number one key. And my number one key is just talk to people who are willing to share information. And if you can't find people who are willing to share, go find people whose careers are almost over, because I guarantee you they're getting frustrated. People have stopped listening to them. And it's the saddest thing on earth, where it's like, this guy's got the longest career path and the information is no longer good. I mean, especially like something like manufacturing, which isn't that new of an industry. This isn't like high tech or something. So yeah, just talk to people who have information to share.
Love that. And, a friend of mine says, we don't get to the top, just get to the top. We have to get there by a ladder. And so each one of those people is a rung to the next step.
Totally.
So with that, Jason, I just have 4 final questions for you. And the first one is, what's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
You can never have enough buckets. So we were walking a manufacturing plant one time with a gentleman. He was selling the whole plant. He was a god in the industry. And he's talking all this stuff. And he turns to us. He goes, you can never have enough buckets. And my brother and I mean, no clue what he meant. And about 6 months later, we learned that people clean buckets in the industry. And it's when you pencil it all out, it's to save money, so you reuse the bucket. But if you pencil it all out, it actually costs you an extra $1. And what he had told us was, forget the simple answer and go look for the right answer. And till this day, we repeat this all the time when people are just shooting from the hip and going, oh, this would be the right thing. It's like, you never have enough buckets. Go figure it out. And it has stuck with us. It's one of the weirdest things on earth. Anybody who just started working for us always is like, never have enough buckets? What do you guys mean? But it's just, go actually look at the problem instead of just assuming, oh, if I clean it out, I'll save money.
Love that. Share with us one thing on your bucket list.
So we own a ranch. I have wanted to try barrel racing my entire life. It is a female sport. I understand that. I am too heavy for it, but I will figure out how to try barrel racing. And males have started to do it on bigger horses. So I want to try barrel racing.
When the toy companies finally get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
Probably a hammer and some horse reins.
And the last one, how do people find you?
Best way is if you go to mrca.net. There's actually links on there. You can schedule direct time with me. If you've got any questions regarding anything we've done or doing, interest in investing with us, anything that's there, I go back to what we've been talking about this whole time. There is always access to me. The link is on there. You can go directly onto my calendar and reserve a slot to talk about anything you'd like.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.